So I'm going to break this tour into parts, right? And then maybe take a couple of detours before we get to the destination in the end. So the beginning part, we call this the pitch round, all right? So I want you to have 1 minute each, or maybe even 30 seconds, to tell you why their markets, why your markets matter to them, and why they should pay attention to you. So Stephan, let's start with you.
So Africa, for me, that's a love story that started 35 years ago. I fell in love with the energy and the people. Africa, for me, is a calling. It's a place where you can change the industry, you can change people's behavior, you can change the workplace. Africa is a story about the next generation. You know, in the next 10 years, Africa will have a working age population as big or bigger than China and India. Africa is a story about opportunity. It has the world's highest entrepreneurship rate, 22%. Most areas are up for grabs, and best is, most of it is unregulated. Africa is a story about leapfrogging. Just look at this. Most of Zimbabwe's economy is running on crypto today. Roads are bad. Everybody has to fly. Africa is not for the faint of heart, but Africa is a growth and innovation story. Developers from Africa last year created more than 50% of all open source repositories on GitHub. And finally, Africa is a story about the future. The old world in Europe is crumbling. We're betting on net zero, a gamble that will probably fail. And best of all, why Africa? Because God saves the best for last.
All right, did you like the pitch? All right, not too sure. Okay, CC, your turn.
Before you think of Africa, you need to think about ASEAN. Where is ASEAN? ASEAN is a collection of Southeast Asia, so we have Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand into ASEAN. And I work harder than Stephan, so I prepared 2 slides to convince you. So, okay,
it's in front of you.
If you look at the number of people that has the income above $250,000, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but their cost of living is really low. At $250,000, I tell you, their house is fully paid for, and they are able to travel. In 5 years' time, it will be the size of Japan. In 10 years' time, there will be 70 million of this middle income ready to go. And the most important part is that nobody is focusing in ASEAN. When we talk about Asia, we always think about China, India, or Japan. When everyone is not paying attention to it, that's when you need to strike it while it's hot, right? The next slide is the Gen Alpha. Why Gen Alpha is important? Because Gen Alpha places travel experience higher than material, right? So if you look at the numbers, the ASEAN market itself, we are going to have a total of 157 million of Gen Alpha out there. The market size is huge, might not be as big as Africa, but definitely richer than Africa. That's all. I rest my case.
Okay.
Can't argue with that.
Ross, can you beat that?
Yeah, so I didn't realize we were debating, but so Middle East and North Africa region. So like Southeast Asia, you know, we typically address it as a region, but it's actually a collection of very different countries, you know, united by you know, a common language, Arabic. The way we think about it, there's a core in the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, the 6 of them. So Saudi, UAE, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, Qatar. 60 million people with GDP per capita, so spending power, comparable to the richest countries in Western Europe. These people, they travel a lot. So high frequency. Unit economics, you know, when you're looking at LTV to CAC, best in the world. So in many perspectives, it looks like an emerging market in terms of you know, penetration, but in terms of the frequency with which people travel, how much they spend, it's very developed. So that's the core, and then you've got an extended, you know, region down into the Levant, and then sort of North Africa. There's about 450 million people in that region, all speaking Arabic, and then for our purposes, we tend to bolt on the adjacencies of sort of Pakistan that's typically managed, you know, as part of MENA, and then, you know, over into Turkey. You bolt that on, you're looking at a population base comparable to Southeast Asia. The core of it is growing very fast. as long as oil stays high, and I don't see it falling anytime soon, it's boomtown in the Gulf, and the governments are all trying to figure out how to diversify away from oil, and tourism travel is a pillar.
Right.
And so people are investing in it, and unlike in Europe where governments are a little bit two minds whether they actually want tourists or not, the Middle East is open for business.
They all want tourism. I mean,
Yep.
Ross basically encroached into your territory because he mentioned North Africa, by the way. So, all right, Blanca, over to you. That's a huge market that Ross has just painted out. So,
Well, it's huge, but not as huge as mine. So I feel, first of all, I want to say I feel sorry for those who left because I have news for you. China. So if you remember, China reopened borders only last year, and it still topped, out of all the outbound travel countries in the world, it topped number 1 with $200 billion, ahead of US and German travelers. So really, really big market. Super exciting because the trend is going to continue into 2024. Now, not so good news for Europe, though, because Chinese have shorter holidays now, and they're looking at destinations that are a little bit shorter, long haul to get to. And they're also picking destinations that are safer, or that they perceive are safer. So still, a lot of the travel is going to happen within the region. But they still love to come to Europe, and they still come to US. So go to US, so get ready for them. In addition, we are based in Singapore, so we also serve other markets. Korea. Koreans are really another big area to focus. 22 billion spent in outbound travel in 2023, still increasing. And these guys love Europe. Spain was their number 1 destination selected in Europe, about 500,000 visitors last year, so still really sizable, obviously not as big as China. And then in terms of Japan, don't forget about Japan, but that's a destination that apparently all of you Europeans love to visit to. You basically increased 14% when compared of your inbound travel to Japan pre-COVID. So 14% in 2023 compared to 2019. That's because of the depreciation of the yen. So it's not yet an outbound source market, but a very strong destination to look out for.
well, very exciting markets, right? All of them are very exciting markets. So now I call this the challenge round. And pick a point that you may want to challenge or disagree with. Stephan, we start with you.
Well, so I'd like to pick a little bit on Ross. Because who the hell wants to, number one, go to the Middle East because it's so hot? Who wants to live in the Middle East because it's so damn hot? And, it's just like unbearably much sand there, So I understand as long as you can attract people to live there, of course they'll want to get the hell out of there as soon as possible. So from a travel point of view, yes. But is this sustainable? I don't know.
Yeah.
Come on, pick on him. Pick on his point. Africa, how many people can actually travel? It's huge, but they're all poor, right?
Yeah.
This is easy.
I mean, right now in the Gulf, it's like about 45 degrees. You can sort of like stick a fry pan out the window and fry an egg. And it gets hotter. But for our business, we're largely in the outbound business. So it's not a bad thing. So during summer, it's quite typical. People go overseas for about 2 months. Europe's a beneficiary of a lot of that. So sending people to London to Paris to Italy to south of France.
Okay.
So it's great for European inbound.
That's why the outbound is fantastic. CC, do you disagree with any points here?
No, I want to support Ross, right?
wanna
It's damn hot. That's why they need to travel out. That's why it's good business. Stephan, I have nothing against you, but I went to WiT Africa, and I learned so much things in WiT Africa, but one of the major thing I learned is that don't go into Africa. It's just too complicated continent to really effectively roll it out. Yeah.
But that's the great thing, man,
If it was easy, everybody be doing it, Cece.
Well, maybe that's why he's king in Africa right now. Blanca, any points that you disagree or you want to embellish?
I disagree with all of you guys. I don't see it happening in Africa, Southeast Asia, or was it? And especially your region, though. I mean, you're only how many million people?
About 450.
450.
Small compared to
This is
China.
very tiny. And where do they travel to?
Everywhere.
Everywhere around there.
It's concentric circles.
Right. So I don't believe that. But actually, I wanted to ask you one question. What do you think about Saudi as an inbound destination? Is it really there yet?
So it's typically our first or second, biggest destination. So we do a ton of VFR from around the Gulf and wider Middle East. We do a lot of self-managed business travel, and we're beginning to see the leisure. So a lot of it's event-related. So Saudi's spending a fortune on really hallmark events, which are actually getting people into the country.
But is it really for me? Like an international tourist, I have
But
certain
actually,
needs.
Blanca, I mean, I went to Saudi just last month, and so I went to Riyadh and Jeddah, and I can say that Jeddah was amazing, right? Real eye-opening experience for me to feel the opening of a country to tourism and feeling the energy and enthusiasm of the young people on the ground. So I would support Ross.
That's a cliche, but the hospitality is actually quite incredible. So if you haven't, I recommend checking it out.
All right, I'll check it out then.
So let's move on to now what is the product round, and what is the biggest bet that you're making on your business at this time and why? So Stephan, let's start with you.
Yeah, so we, during COVID, we started to work on what became now, our banking license. So we can acquire and issue cards now, and I don't know if this was by design or if it just happened. So post-COVID, we found that not only were we competing with Google and all the normal travel intermediaries, suddenly all the banks and insurance companies and retailers and telcos, they also wanted to go into travel. So luckily we had built these banking facilities so we could start to sort of bundle our acquiring and issuing business with a loyalty program which is going really, really well. So the idea was that we wanted to create the world's best travel loyalty program, and that's basically sort of our one of our big bets now. So.
And loyalty is related to subscription, right? You're basically launching a subscription model.
It's a subscription model with obviously with a loyalty program with payment. That sort of takes care of all the juicy stuff there.
Okay, CC?
GlobalTix is in the tours and activities sector. I mean, we are the aggregator, and tours and activities is one of the most backward compared to hotels and flight, right? So we are not yet on dynamic pricing, but there are a lot of attractions wants to be on dynamic pricing. There are a lot of talks, even in Europe itself, the Van Gogh Museum, they want a dynamic pricing. But some of the OTAs are also not ready for dynamic pricing. So what we are doing currently is to say, how can we be a bridge between the OTAs and the attractions? How can we convert a dynamic pricing into a tiered pricing structure itself, right? So, and how can we help the attraction to really digitalize their business, to maximize their yield? So we are very focused on REST tech, very focused on converting dynamic pricing to tiered pricing. Yeah, the bridge.
And you want to try and help them distribute through the OTAs?
Yes, through the OTAs, through the offline agents. Yeah.
Okay. Ross?
Yeah, so making a few big bets at the moment. So
a few big bets.
So we started contracting hotels with the idea to contract everything in the Middle East. And originally doing it B2C, but then we sort of figured we might as well do it B2B as well. So we spun out Wego beds. So we're aiming to be the biggest bed bank in the Middle East. It's going to take a while, but that's the ambition.
So Wego beds, it's the bed bank, and you're competing with the hotel beds of this world?
Correct. Okay. Although more of a regional focus. So,
okay.
We've launched Wego Pro, which is our sort of next generation business travel and expense management solution. So MENA, APAC is the focus. Early days, but going well. But I think the biggest bet is sort of everything we're doing to make everything that was traditionally searchable on Wego bookable. So with that, we're sort of investing in a new sort of flight search engine inspired a bit by what ITA and Google did years ago. They're trying to like create a pre-computed cube of all the full service content, but also all the LCC content, so we can beat Google in terms of speed, pricing, and comprehensiveness. So
Right. So
big project. But.
So three big projects then. Okay.
Yep.
So Wego Beds, Wego Pro, and your flight product.
Yeah.
Okay. Blanca, that's going to keep him busy. Blanca?
Very busy. We're a travel activities B2B platform. We still are focused in bringing as much supply connected as possible. So for us, the fundamentals haven't really changed. Investing a lot in integrating as many booking systems as there are available to make that supply then connected to our network of online travel agent partners. We work a lot with companies in Korea, Indonesia, China, and the standardization work, it just never ends. We have queues and queues of new APIs coming up from activity operators, tour operators, DMCs now. It's just insane. So the fundamentals of the sector, as Sisi was mentioning, is we're still really behind from hotels and flights. So we're really investing a lot just in standardizing that connectivity. Now, for a very long time, we were questioned, are you a distribution network? Are you a channel manager? And for a very long time, we define ourselves as a distribution network. Finally, now, in 2024, we're able to start to actually open some channels and allow operators to really have that connectivity directly with the OTA. So we launched a couple of big channel manager projects with Ctrip. So we're able to help operators who are struggling with the connectivity into that platform in China. We also launched a channel manager facility for Get Your Guide, which was the European one. So still very, very heavily focused in providing that connectivity layer.
All right. So now I call this the round robin round, and each of you get to ask the other a question while I take a break. Ask any question you want of the previous answer, or it could be completely unrelated. So Stephan, pick one person to ask a question of.
Okay, so Blanca, I'm gonna start with you. I just found out now that obviously you run your business with your husband.
That is true.
How do you keep your love life on?
That's a great question. Thank you. How do I answer that? We actually.
Do you do date night?
What kind of question is that?
Do you do date
My
nights?
husband's there. Maybe he wants to answer. My love life. Okay, my husband and I know each other for about 20 years. We have a really, really good friendship and partnership. We've been through hell and back. I don't recommend working with your spouse, but if you do, I wish he has the qualities that mine does, because, running a startup and surviving COVID, that tests you. We don't have children, so that helps. And our passion is the little dog, so I guess that's what I can share.
Cici, your turn to ask a question.
Ross, you haven't been completely honest. Wego just bought TravelStart, and you guys are moving hard into corporate travel. So my question to you is, why corporate travel? Do you think that OTA should move into corporate travel? Is corporate travel really such a huge market for you?
We saw a lot of people doing business travel bookings on Wego on an unmanaged basis, and it's about 40% of the Middle East market. If you look at the GDS data, and there's not great solutions. Like there's a whole generation that have grown up with good B2C tools, and they've got to email somebody at their TMC to get their travel done, and it's got to go through 3 different layers of permission. So we think in the same way that Navan in the US and TravelPerk in Europe are revolutionizing it, we're taking good ideas from both, and we're sort of bringing in localized supply and localized marketing, and we just think it's an obvious opportunity, and we're well placed. There's 75 million people with our app already installed, and so we're going to use that as a way to onboard people sort of bottom up, and then do the enterprise top down as well. So.
Well, I mean, corporate travel is like the most disruption is going on right now, you know.
Yeah.
And I was in Shanghai attending the Trip.com conference, and basically, like Trip.biz is the largest TMC in China right now,
Yeah.
and they are expanding outside China. So you know that is a huge sector that is going to be disrupted big time. So
Yeah, it's hard in different ways to B2C, but you know, if you can, you know, the more demand you can bring to your suppliers, you know, the more important you are to them, right? So the better deals you can get.
okay. So Ross, you get a chance to ask one of them a question.
Yeah, so Stephan, your business is very heavily, you know, entrenched down in South Africa. The ANC government just lost their majority, I think, in the recent election. Is that good or bad? And
No, that's very good.
you're more optimistic about the market?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So how's it going to change?
No, I mean, look, the way I look at it, okay, this is longer, but I'll try to condense it. So I grew up in Sweden in the 60s and 70s, and at that time, the socialists had majority in the government, like 60, 70% for the last 40 years. So, you know, socialism and the way how they did things was heavily influencing the police, you know, schools, TV, you know, everything in society. You know, in the 80s, they lost the election for the first time in, I think, 45 years. And then sort of, you know, they had to start to, you know, form coalitions after that, you know, in order to keep powers. But that meant that their power was broken once and for all. And now I think we've got a very, you know, well-functioning society in Sweden, you know, for businesses and what have you. And I think exactly the same thing is going to happen in South Africa. They're going to have to do coalitions. They will never go back to what it was. You know, over the years, you know, we will have a much freer society, much less corruption, and much more business-friendly.
Okay, that's very positive and optimistic. Fantastic. Blanca, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, sure. I mean, actually, Sisi, you mentioned you're doing some work on, you know, trying to resolve or bridge the bridge between dynamic pricing and more, I guess, traditional platforms. But what we're experiencing is actually that dynamic pricing is really taking charge, especially with the very, very large attractions. So where do you see dynamic pricing sort of heading to in the Asian markets that you're serving?
I don't think, okay, tours and activities is a huge market, right? It's very fragmented. You have the biggest attractions out there, and you have the smallest one-man show tour operators out there, right? So definitely dynamic pricing is not for everybody. Dynamic pricing is for the tier A kind of attractions where it's really, really popular. But the irony as well is that these tier 8 attractions probably drive a bulk of the tickets as well compared to the long tail. So I think if the big boys all move towards dynamic pricing, I guess eventually the rest just have to follow because they are the one leading the industry itself. So,
Do you do event tickets and concert tickets?
Yeah.
we don't, but it's something that we have always been looking at. But concert, it's Live Nation have been holding it very closely, yet it's very fragmented because it's contract locally. So it's a pretty complicated thing. Yeah, but concert is definitely huge.
So
I mean, it's definitely one of the big trends, isn't it?
It is.
Event-driven tourism, whether it's concerts or sporting events. I mean, definitely we've seen it around the world. I mean, the Swift effect, right? And we've seen OTAs like Klook, for example, or Trip, really getting into selling those concerts and events.
I mean, somebody told me the other day Trevor Noah is in town. So
Trevor
in Singapore.
Noah?
So I was looking, so nobody told me, so I was looking, $1,500 on the secondary market.
$1,500.
I would take a look at it.
Okay, so now we're going to go on a detour, and I'd like you to tell us something interesting, something quirky about your market, something not so well known. So, Stephan?
Okay, so I think, you know, you can look at it like this. So in Africa, everything is up for grabs, you know. Everything is an RFP. So when the government says something, that means we're thinking about this. You know, it's not, we haven't really decided, but, you know, maybe you guys should think about, you know, these things. And so it's really a place that's made for cowboys. And some years ago, I felt that the domestic fares in South Africa was inflated. They were higher than what they really should be. So I sent out a tweet, and 2 weeks later, the airlines, they dramatically dropped their prices. We're talking about 30-40%. They just boom. Because apparently there was some price fixing going on, and there was this guy, with this OTA who sort of maybe were on their case. So what I do love about Africa in general, not only South Africa, but same thing with Nigeria and other places, is that you can actually make a huge change very, very quickly. And I find that's quite attractive. I don't know if that was what you were looking for, but
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So that you can make a huge
You
change
can
very
make a
quickly.
big difference by just opening your mouth or doing something, and obviously everything that we do must have some sort of impact for the consumers. And so in this case, I was just sort of checking on. I thought, these fares are abnormally high. I wonder what's going on. So I just sent out a tweet, and the tweet was more like, "What the f? What the f is going on? These prices are too high. They're up, 50-60% compared to what they normally are. Is there some stuff going on here that's half illegal?" And that was it.
Completely.
and a journalist picked it up and started to dig and wada, and soon enough the prices just collapsed.
Okay, Cici, what about an interesting quote about
I'm surprised
ASEAN?
you're alive. But more about consumer behavior, I think the quirky fact about Southeast Asian is that we love the cold weather. We really love the cold weather. Unlike the Europeans, you will travel to a place that is hot, it's a summer holiday, but the Southeast Asian, we love to go to cold places. The colder, the better. We go to Hokkaido, we go to Finland, Iceland. So we travel during your off-peak. So in a way, that's good complementary. So don't worry about the cold. We love it. We love to walk on the streets, and we love to eat the streets food when the weather is cold. The colder, the better. Yeah.
All right. Ross?
So about 12, 13 years ago, when we first started getting interested in the Middle East market, when started spending time in the region and talking to people that were operating there, conventional wisdom was English was all you needed to succeed in the Middle East. If you want to do anything with e-commerce or banking or online travel, English is more trusted than Arabic. Everybody who you want to reach online can speak English. That's all you need. We went ahead and localized anyway, and things really took off. So I thought it was obvious that people would prefer to be addressed in their own language, but all of the businesses at the time were basically set up English only.
Okay.
So
Blanca, what about you?
Yeah, actually, a little bit on the same topic. We always get the question, since we service the Korean market, do we do any AI translations? And we are like, absolutely not. One of the things we learned in Korean is that there are 3 different types of Korean that I don't understand, but our Korean team does. And how important is actually the human translation in certain languages, that where technology doesn't matter how much you actually, how developed it gets, you still need that human translation and intonation and sensitivity to the type of customer that you're actually serving. So yeah, very particular from the Korean side, and it's expensive. It's so expensive to translate, but once you actually do it well, it can really have a really big impact on your conversion rate. So, yeah.
So human translation is important. So I want to share a quote by Karen Chan, who is the group commercial head of AirAsia. And she said something interesting about the Gen Alpha market that you talked about, this huge Gen Alpha market in ASEAN. And she said, for example, to the Gen Alpha, virtual reality is real and social is truth. And we got to think about how we actually going to be marketing to that generation. especially in the APAC region, Asia, especially with the Gen Alpha. And I think in the Middle East too, and Africa, it's a very young population, right? Okay. All right, so now this is a serious round. What would be your advice to anyone thinking of entering your market or region? What's the one thing they should not do? What's the first thing they should do, Stephan?
I think that, you know, and this might come as a surprise to some of you, Africa is not one country. It's many countries. And Nigeria and Kenya, they probably have as much in common as India and Switzerland. So you have to treat every country, you know, different. Just like Ross said, you know, how they came up with, you know, the local translations. You have to have the local twists there. And for instance, most countries, most people in Africa, they're very keen on new stuff. They love, you know, new technology. They love, you know, international brands. But they will buy from a local brand if there is one, and they will always root for that. Now, for instance, going into Nigeria is probably one of the hardest things you can do ever, because the Nigerians, they are super smart. They are super smart, and they work hard. They will outwork all of us here. And why? Because they have nothing to lose, and they really, really, really want to win. And the guys, most of them look great, and the women are smashingly beautiful, and they know it. So they are very, very hard to compete with. So if you've heard about the Nigeria letters, you know, they are very, very smart on scams and stuff like that. But when you take all that drive and put that into business context, they become very lethal to compete with. Very, very smart.
So your advice is don't enter Nigeria?
Yeah.
And so what market should they enter?
That's one thing. No. I think that, you know, there are lots of pockets where you know, we can take, and the beautiful thing is most market in Africa is really small. And to be honest, if you take all the aviation market in all of Africa, I think it's about the size of Saudi. So it's not very, very big. But if you can take 60, 70, 80% market share, you know, you will do very, very well financially, and you will build up like a really, really, you know, a big fan base that will, you know, love your brand. So I think it's worth, you know, looking at investing in.
All right. CC, which market should they enter first?
Singapore.
Singapore?
It's the easiest to enter, right? And then from Singapore, you step off to go into Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam itself. But the first starting point should always be in Singapore, because it's the easiest to have a footstep in it, right?
Okay.
So what is the do and don't do? I think the first thing, if you want to set up in Southeast Asia, which is quite open to business, they welcome businesses globally to come in. But you need to hire a you need to hire a consultant to do it. Don't ever try to open a company by yourself. I give you an example. When I was working with Singapore Airlines and I was posted to Indonesia, so I need a work permit, right? So my colleague paid a little bit extra, and I could get into the immigration in and out within 10 minutes, and I was so proud of it, right? Then I met my friend. My friend said, "How? You went down to the immigration office?" Because all I needed to do was pay a little bit more. The immigration officer came to my office to chop my passport. Right? So the learning is that the local consultant will be able to find ways to help you to set up. You really shorten your learning lesson. Okay. And I think the other thing is that just like every single region, you need to go hyper-local. And I always thought that Singapore would be able to manage Malaysia because we are just neighbors, right? And I was very wrong. When we finally opened our Malaysia office, our Malaysia sales really went up a lot. So I think the bottom line is that when you talk about a region, you always need to localize, then you really understand the market. So,
okay,
yeah.
Ross?
Yeah,
I guess maybe everybody is wondering, you know, about Saudi Arabia. You know, right now, it's the biggest spending. How much money have you gotten from Saudi Arabia so far?
I mean, it's our biggest market.
Yeah.
So,
right.
yeah, I mean, we take it very seriously.
Okay.
But, you know, for anybody thinking about coming to the Middle East region, you can't do it remotely. It was funny, like I had to raise money during COVID and talk to a ton of investors, and there was this general consensus that business travel was dead. We're going to Zoom for the rest of our lives, which is absolute nonsense. So, if you want to do business in the Middle East, you need to turn up. It's sort of like showing face, and business travel in the Middle East is almost back to where it was. It's about like 80, 90%. The planes are full, and the front of the plane is packed. So don't try and do it remotely. If you're interested, there's a great event in Dubai, and I think it's in May, the Arabian travel market. It's a bit like WTM or ITB, but just focused on the Middle East. And the Friday before, Hoon does a one-day version of WiT. So all the travel tech people who care about the region turn up. So I advise you to do the two together. You stay over the weekend and enjoy Dubai.
We will be back.
And we'd be happy to help. We work with pretty much everybody in the region. So if you're interested, hit me up.
All right. And Blanca?
Well, I think one of the biggest learnings has been flexibility and really respecting the way business is done in every market. If you come in with a very, European or American model that is sort of like scalable in those markets, and you think that you can replicate that in Asia, think again. There's a lot of nuances in how traditional business is done, right? And so for us on the activity space, we had to very quickly learn that, a commission model in Europe wouldn't really be adaptable to a wholesale rate buying model in some markets. So if you want to do business in Asia, you kind of just need to understand the way they do business and then try to do business that way versus trying to come in with a structure and try to impose it. And we've seen a lot of companies trying to apply or replicate models over there, and it just doesn't work, doesn't scale. So having that flexibility and being able to adapt to multiple models, because in China one company does this, in Korea another one, in Indonesia, Singapore behaves differently. You just need to be able to handle a lot.
Yeah, they all come from different markets, but really, there is one common characteristic about this row of panelists here is their grit and the fact that they're all, pioneers in really trailblazing markets. So we're going to talk about the human round now and the human quality that is most needed, that to make it in your market. So what's the human quality that is most needed to make in your market, in your Africa?
Look, I really think that you need to be quite a bit of a cowboy, actually, to to enter the market and to be there. The market will treat you like a virus, when you first come. So, all the white blood cells will come there and try to kill you. But after a while, you settle down, they will sort of accept you, and even if you are a virus. So I think that not giving up and almost expecting that everything will go pear-shaped, and be happy if it doesn't actually, because I have never experienced that. I've never experienced that things went according to plan, but certain things has gone much better than we thought. Like, for instance, coming from Scandinavia, where I've worked my whole life, I've never experienced people being, enthusiastic about the travel brand. Who gives a shit? It's like, it's like oxygen, But in Africa, they're like super excited about, because you're actually solving a real problem there. And I was like, wow, is that even a thing? And there are a lot of bad things, but there are equally just wonderful things that you can do. But being a bit of a cowboy helps.
Being a bit of a cowboy, and it's okay being a virus. Yeah. Okay, CC?
Empathy and listening. The Southeast Asian or the Asians in general, they don't like you going to a meeting and tell them, I could bring you 10,000 clients, I can drive how much revenue. They always have to start off by saying, understanding them, listen to to what they want, listening to the needs before you do your proposal. So I would say that the key thing is always go in and listen first before you propose anything. Yeah.
Okay. CC? CC. Ross, sorry.
The other CC.
You're beginning to look like CC. Ross.
I think if you want to be successful in the Middle East, it's very much like being successful most places. You need equal parts, luck, and just stupid stubbornness, determination. I think what's maybe a little bit different about the Middle East, maybe more so than anywhere else, is like networking and connections. Are super important. Like if you want to get almost anything done, you need a really warm intro.
Okay.
It's
Sounds
a bit
like
hard to just come through the front door sometimes.
okay. Sounds like common qualities needed to enter any new market.
Very similar to
really.
most of Asia.
Okay. Blanca?
Well, I would say every no is an opportunity, and you're gonna get so many. So everything is a no, because you're creating something new, and if you're there from the very beginning, it's really hard to turn people over to adapt to something new or adopt some new technology. Or so if you just take every no as a new chance to turn it into a yes and keep asking and sometimes begging, eventually you get it. And then one yes turns into another one, and then it starts to snowball. And then, then there's more people following what you're doing, and then you build a name. But it all starts with a hard no, and another one, and another one.
All right, so we come to the final destination, and I ask you each to imagine what your exit or culmination of your vision would look like to you, right? So let's go to the first slide, and that is Blanca. Okay.
That is me. So I would just like to manipulate technology globally. I mean, I think there's a lot of talk about AI, this and this, but I think behind AI, there's always us, the intelligence. Then we can make it artificial, but it all starts with us. And in our space, I think what I'm most excited about is like after 10 years of seeing a lot of aggregation of, activities, now we're building databases that are sufficiently big enough to start to add a little bit of intelligence on top. We're not there yet, but I think the future is really how do we really control that technology to build something better.
All right. Ross, I think the next one is you.
Yeah, so similar to Blanca. So this is more metaphorical than literal. I'm not in a hurry to implant anything to make.
Implant something in your brain?
No, I'm not in a hurry. But I think the whole man-machine interface is going to get better and better. The stuff OpenAI was sort of demoing 4 or 5 weeks ago. I think the interface between our technology is going to get dramatically better. Sort of the friction of dealing with machines, instead of us having to learn the language of the machine's learning our language. It's going to make it dramatically easier for us to solve problems for people.
So it's going to be more of a two-way dance? You're saying that machines learning from us and us learning from the machine is going to be much more of a symbiotic dance?
If you like. More prosaic, but yeah. Okay. But they're learning our language, right? So English is going to become the dominant programming language within a few years.
Okay.
And machines will you'll be able to task them to actually go out and get stuff done for us.
Okay, I thought that was the image of your brain at the end of your journey at Wego. So what's the next one?
I'm more.
Okay, that's CC. Okay.
Yeah, I'm more of a daydreamer or idealist. I think this is a reminder for me myself, is that the ultimate goal of travel is really to promote understanding and spread the love around. So I think there's nothing better than to fly to a new place and able to be invited into someone's home and have food. Because the moment you have a friend from afar, the connection with that country is up there, right? So I think having a dinner at someone's home, at a friend's home, is the ultimate goal that we want to do, yeah.
Okay. And next one is somebody's home.
Yes, so this is, let me just read what it's called. It's Palazzo Venier de Leoni. So it's in Venice, and used to be the home of Peggy Guggenheim. And Peggy Guggenheim, for those of you who don't know, she was probably one of the, I think she's my hero when it comes to art collection. You know, I think her private art collection is worth somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion today. Without her, she was very, very smart. She realized that, you know, she had to, you know, she knew how to find the young emerging artists. So in her house here, you know, you have Rothko, you have Pollock, you have Max Ernst, another. I think she was married to Max Ernst for a while. She probably slept with the other guys as well. I don't know. But you know, she basically, without her, the contemporary art scene would not have become what it was. And so, what has that got to do with anything? So, I feel that personally, you know, if I can sort of contribute in sort of an African context to the next generation of entrepreneurs, finding them, nurturing them, coaching them, investing in them, this would be my dream exit scenario of creating like a Peggy Guggenheim house for you know, future emerging, you know, great, you know, men and women who will create the future for Africa. So, and to some degree, that's what we're trying to do with Innovation City in Cape Town, which was my post-COVID project. So, yeah.
So Innovation City, it doesn't look like that, but it's pretty cool. And Innovation City is where we actually hold our WiT Africa. We're going to go back to that on March 13th. So I hope that you will join us at WiT Africa and Middle East and Tokyo and Korea, where we have our events. But thank you so much, guys, for really, thank you. I mean, to be the last act, you know, and to put together disparate markets and very strange personalities together. We hope you've enjoyed the tour with us, and really we hope to see you at any of our events down on the road here. You can see that we've got a whole range of events coming. And I'm also excited to reveal to you our theme for WiT Singapore Conference, which is October 14th to 16th. And I hope that you'll join us and you will for sure meet these 4 characters again. But let's reveal the theme for WiT Singapore, October 14th to 16th. Let's play the video. CC, I think you got to play the video. Next generation is about the human-machine interface. It's about experience versus memories, what we heard in the last panel. It's about young versus old. How do you bridge the two? And it's about, what else is it about? Next generation is about creating better travel for our customers, the most important, because there's a generational change in customers coming, and they have different aspirations and desires. So thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you next year or in Singapore.